Hello, Asha fans. We're back for another episode of Behind the Bench preseason interview series with Division One head coaches here for Asha. Here we have Ryan Ricci, the Brophy head coach, new head coach for Brophy after Don Maloney, 1 year for him. Now, coach, you move in to the Division One head coaching role. How was it getting that news that you were going to be the man for the job?
It was really exciting, actually. I mean, I've been around Brophy now with I think it's about my ninth year. So, started as assistant coach for both varsity JV, head coach on JV. So it was nice to just get that progression to head coach, and it's exciting to see because I got a lot of the same players that I've seen for the last 4 years through both JV and as they move up. And I think about all the seniors now were freshmen when I first got the JV head coaching job. So it's just fun to see that progression from all of them.
You're moving up the coaching ranks. They're moving up the playing ranks as well. Let's talk about you as a player as well. Back in 2012, you were a Brophy Bronco as a player. You won a state championship as well. How do you think being a player and being in the shoes that your players are now kind of helps them relate to you?
Yeah, I mean, I try not to bring it up as much as possible with them because you don't want to be that old guy there, be like, yeah, back in our day when we did this, it was whatever. But honestly, a lot of that hasn't changed. The identity of the team is still similar. No matter what, we're going to go out there. We're going to try to compete. We always want to compete at that D1 level, even though some years where we might be down, we might be up. We want to be there to represent Brophy at our highest division for high school. So looking back on those days, yeah, I miss them, but I mean, I get to relive them almost every day. When we go to those games and everything. I see them getting ready, them on the ice and everything, and it's just a good way to stay connected to a lot of that.
When you look at you as a coach, you've been on the staff for overall, like you said, JV head coach, your assistant head coach. Now you're the head coach at Division One. How would you describe yourself as a coach? What do you bring to the table?
I say I bring to the table some of the newer things to look at. Being a head coach, wanting to have the players have a little more say in the team. Because remember, again, back when we were younger, the coach ruled with an iron fist. We followed whatever it was, and sometimes that worked out great, depending on the coach. Sometimes not so much. Even now, I try to again give a lot more agency to the players over. Hey, how do you guys want the season to go? And what do you guys want practices to look like on off ice stuff? Try to give them a little more agency.
When the players take more advantage of that, let's move into your offense. A captain, a big proponent of Brophy hockey the last 4 years was Cooper Flynn, big center, played for the D1 team for almost his entire career for 4 years. How do you sum up what he brought to the program as a whole on and off the ice? And what are you really going to miss most from having that type of leader on in your program?
I think again, mostly his voice. He was a big voice. I mean, if you remember from his freshman year, big voice in and out of the locker room. It's nice now though, because I got the whole new group of leadership from offense and defense. Is they get the chance to put their mark on the team a little more now. Because again, I think guys like Cooper and some of the other seniors from last year were on the team for so long that they had really come to dominate the identity of the team. And so now we're kind of getting to see what do new guys like Spencer Milstein, Blake Burr, and Mac Frakes, what are they going to bring and how are they going to change or keep, just to see what the identity they bring.
You mentioned those three. Are those your leadership roles for this year? Have you named captains yet, or are you just looking at those three to kind of lead your locker room and lead your team without letters?
Well, right now, again, we're still in that conversation, but they've been by far my most vocal. We've already been talking like practice plans and other things together. And outside of them, I have a very let's see, majority of the team is upperclassmen, if not seniors. So I mean, those three have seniors: Connor McDonald, Will Samuel, Max Milstein, the goalie, Kate DiBiase, Bennett Gilchrist. I mean, all seniors. So very heavy on these seniors and their leadership that they bring. Um, Once I actually get down to the naming the captains and putting them all on the jersey, it's still, like I said, I'm doing it. It's a tough decision with that many in the room at once.
Let's talk a little bit about Mac Frakes. We got to see him at the Asha level for the first time last season. He was dominant when he got out there. What do you expect from him? What have you seen from him over the last 2 years, and what type of player is he?
Um, he's one of the players. I think again, he's dropped a lot of the other stuff to commit for Brophy for hockey for this year. Not terribly surprised. I see that a lot. And again, in the last 9 years, some players who maybe play freshman year, they go play travel for a few years and don't play with us until maybe their senior year, or they don't come and play at all until their senior year. And then by the end of the year, they're looking to be like, I should have done this all year long or all 4 years. So I think, again, they bought into, again, Brophy in general, wanting to complete all 4 years there and wanting to then continue to mentor some of the younger guys, because I've seen him in practice already. We're doing some drills and stuff. And, my assistant coaches are doing things or whatever, but he'll grab somebody else, take them over to the side and be like, hey, just real quick, here's some finer points on whatever he saw during actually like a battle drill or something.
He brings a lot to the table. I thought what was really awesome with you guys last season, when you had a pretty young team, and two players that really stood out were two freshmen. When you look at Jack Bork and Spencer Leach as well, what have you seen from them now over a full off season and now coming into their second year with Asha?
Yeah, I'm leaning on them a little more. Both of them did pretty well during the seeding tournament. I know Jack, by the end of it, I think that kid was so tired. He had, I think, 7 ice slots in the seeding tournament weekend between travel practices and our games. So by Sunday, he was just dead tired. But I leaned on those guys a lot to fill some holes, at least on the top couple lines there. And I'm looking forward to them being pretty key parts going through the rest of the season.
We talk about Frakes, Leach, Bork as well. Who are some other offensive forwards that we should look out for you guys getting a lot of ice time?
One of them is another senior, Connor McDonald. He started skating as a freshman. It was really his first time really getting into hockey. I played years ago with his older cousin, but the work effort he puts in. We had our first morning practice this last week. We practice usually, what is that, Tuesday morning, 6 a.m. I get there about 5:30. Luckily, it's Arcadia, so nobody's on the ice yet. And he's already out there practicing some stuff from the weekend. I think we'd stuck him at center, and he lost a face-off in our zone, and they immediately scored. And so the first thing I see him out there doing Tuesday morning at 5:30 is standing out there with somebody practicing face-offs. So just the dedication from him alone will earn him time. And there's going to be some, of course, changing around of some roles just based on travel players, who shows up and who doesn't. Being a non-travel player, he's going to be one of those that gets leaned on a lot from that standpoint. Him, Charlie Smith, he's a junior. I remember coaching him as a freshman for JV. Hopefully he's taken a step forward this year. Things, good signs over the first couple of weeks of practice and games, I think, as well.
Now, I know you guys, before we move on to your defense, for Brophy as a program, every year they do a retreat before the season starts. Kind of tell us where did that start? What do you guys do, and how does that really help your group going into the regular season?
Yeah, so years ago, I think when I was still there, we were like juniors or sophomores. We started going up to Brophy's retreat center called Manresa in Oak Creek Canyon. We'd go up there for a couple days. It started out, and then we would be like, get an ice slot in Flag, maybe go drive up there and either have a practice or a scrimmage, do some hikes and workouts and everything. And slowly, it's more devolved into an actual like retreat in a Brophy sense. Because again, I have on our staff, we have 2 teachers, Steve Schillig and Shelby Stringer, who again are able to keep us a lot more in touch with a lot of the Brophy's mantra and time for reflection and a lot of the other things that me not being immersed in that day to day as like a teacher or staff that I'm glad they get to bring. And it really just kind of sets us forth, going into the season. Taking time to appreciate not only our teammates, but like our parents and everyone who supported the kids throughout their time. Gives them a chance again to settle in, and then us to talk what kind of season do we want to have, to give us time one-on-one for each team to discuss what season we want to have, how are we going to do that, and just general lay out some goals for us as a team and individuals.
That's always a great thing. A couple other Division I programs do that as well to get a little bit, out of the Phoenix metro area. I'm sure it's a little cooler up there as well.
Yep. It was a good time. A few little thunderstorms going on, so not a lot of sleep happening there late at night. But I think a few times they woke us up, and I think everyone came out of our cabins. We're like, "What's going on? It's pouring out rain." But I think everybody got woken up a few times.
You take what you can get, right?
Yeah.
Either the heat or the rain. Let's move on to your defense. Something that's really important are those 2 returners you mentioned earlier with Spencer Milstein and Blake Burr. a lot of experience between the two. Burr's been on that Division I team for a while now. Spencer Milstein came over with his brother Max, played an excellent year last year. Will you keep them together, and how do you kind of describe both of their games?
Um, so far we put them together. We split them apart. They'll probably mostly be apart just for defensive depth purposes, and again, travel players always on D1. We got three on the back end, so again, that's half our defense plays travel. So I mean, there's even going to be a chance for probably some forwards throughout the year to give their hand at it. We'll see how they do. Um, Spencer again is pretty vocal and again trying to quarterback a lot of the things that are going out on the ice. Burr has a little more, I think, actionable approach to it. He's going to go out there and show what needs to be done rather than say it for sure. And they're going to be probably pretty big pieces on not only just defensively, but moving the puck up the ice, getting involved in the offensive zone as well to get some scoring opportunities.
Those two are going to have a ton of ice time between those two defensively, but who else should we expect on defense for you guys this year?
This year we got both Max Lagutin, uh, Elliot Fresk. We're still working on his last name. Fresca or Fresca. Josh Gersovich and James Sayag. I'm hoping to see a lot more out of Josh Gersovich this year because should be a sophomore. He was on our JV team last year as a freshman. Big part of our defense, working through last year, trying to make it to the finals for the JV team. And he knows he's got a lot to learn and keep up with the pace change. But last year he got a few call ups, and I think he's excited to see how he can himself can progress and contribute to some of the more competitive games. As you've probably seen, there's probably going to be a pretty decent split between top three and everyone else. So I'm hoping here we can have him and others make a good impact by the time we come around to playing guys like Notre Dame or Pinnacle at the end of the season.
Those top three, like you mentioned, Notre Dame, Pinnacle, Mountain Ridge, probably the three that everyone's been looking at so far in the seeding tournament as the favorites to finish in that top three slot. When you look at your goaltending, I think that's something you have probably over every other team in Division I. With Max Milstein, arguably the best goalie in D1 last year, with Matthew Gahan and a couple others. He gets another year under his belt. What have you seen from him so far in preseason, the seeding tournament, and what kind of season could he have?
I'm hoping he has a big season for us. When he is there, it does seem that we have a bit of a goalie shortage across the league in general from every division standpoint. The games he was in, I think he got a little shortchanged this past weekend. Be either slow starts by us, or again just not being able to fully realize what guys like Mountain Ridge when we played them, what they were going to be able to throw at us for that weekend. He's taken a big role too in leadership. If we could put A's and C's on goalies, we might, but that's not a thing. So I know he's already talked to me about working on some practice stuff, what he sees from the net, and it's pretty valuable because, well, again, us as coaches, we can sit up there and stand and see down at everything from the game, but they get to sit at the back end, right, and see it all from that perspective. And as probably again sitting up higher there, yes, you kind of see everything, but having a little bit more of a down low, direct approach and being able to see everything either from the back or right out in front of you will make a big difference. So I'm always curious to hear what he has to say, in between periods after a game. What is he seeing from the defense, or what is he seeing as we move the puck up the ice?
When I talk to different coaches, they kind of see their roster, they see how their teams play in the seeding tournament, and they say, okay, we got to win games this way. Do you guys have a certain way or a certain almost recipe to winning games on a consistent basis?
I don't think we have one. I think we want to have one, not just because it's the only way we will win. I think we can win in a number of ways. But if we can find that recipe, as you say, it will help us when we have to play the teams like Mountain Ridge, Notre Dame, and Pinnacle. If we can really harness that and focus ourselves to those throughout the year, and I think when we come time to play some of those teams at the end of the season, that will help us that much more.
And I got one more question for you, Coach, before we let you go. And I know you got a lot of stuff to do 1 week before the season starts. You spent a lot of time at the JV level as a coach. A lot of the players that you coach are now moving up to D1. What is the biggest change going from JV to D1? Because you see a lot of these big programs that have four teams, a Pinnacle and Notre Dame, Mountain Ridge, they have kids going each level every year. For Brophy, a little bit unfortunate. You go from the lowest level JV up to the top in D1. What is the biggest difference?
It's just the speed first and foremost. Always, what I would always like to see from the JV guys, again, since we have to make that big of a jump, is, and it does happen every now and then. But I look at one of the JV players and I say, "Hey, can you pretty much dominate at that level? Right? Can if you wanted to and you have the opportunity, can you go from one end of the ice to the other with the puck, and at least get it on net and get a scoring opportunity? If they can do that, they can again probably keep up." Um, but once that actually hits them, it's a bit of a shock. Some of them don't do so well. Some of them do better. And again, from the JV level, it was always again just give them an opportunity to have fun, put them in a fun environment, and they will continue to get better. And now it's can we continue to have fun and just increase that competitiveness a little bit more? Probably every practice and every game throughout the season.
That's JV to D1 coach, new D1 coach at Brophy. Really appreciate the time, and we wish you guys a great season starting next week for the Brophy Broncos.
Thank you, Dylan.